In a world where noise drowns out nuance, real intelligence often hides in plain sight. Machiavelli, the master observer of power, believed that being truly smart wasn't about how much knowledge you collected. It was about how you used what you knew, who you allowed to see it, and how you leveraged it to control outcomes. So how can you tell if you're smarter than most people? It's not about grades or titles or the certificates on your wall. It's about how you see how you adapt and how you predict what others don't even notice. Let's break this down step by step through a Machiavellian lens, cold, strategic, and quietly dangerous. Sign 1. You stay silent when others talk. Most people panic when silence fills a room. They rush to fill it with opinions, with emotions, with empty noise. But not you. If you're the type who can hold your tongue in a room full of people desperate to prove themselves, that's not shyness, it's deliberate restraint. And here's why that matters. Silence is a form of power. The less you say, the more people project intelligence onto you. The more you listen, the more information you collect, information they hand over freely without even realizing it. You see speaking not as a reflex, but as a weapon. You know that the wrong word spoken at the wrong time exposes your thinking. So you let others expose themselves instead. This is what Machiavelli would call strategic invisibility. You wait, you observe, you let them underestimate you, and in their overconfidence they slip. Silence in this light is not weakness, it's camouflage. The smarter you are, the more you know that not everything should be said. In fact, most things shouldn't. What does this reveal about your mind? It shows that you value information more than attention. It shows that you can delay gratification, the very core of strategic intelligence, and it proves you're comfortable with ambiguity while only fools rush to fill the unknown. Sign 2. You see people's real motives. Everyone sees what others appear to be. Few see what they really are. Most people take words at face value, but you don't. If someone claims they're helping you just because you already know there's a string attached, if someone insists they're angry about one thing, you can sense the real trigger underneath. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. You read intentions, not just words. You pick up on micro-expressions, tone shifts, delays in response, false enthusiasm. You don't get lost in the mask. You look at the eyes behind it, and because of that, charm, flattery, and guilt trips bounce off you like water on stone. Manipulators hate people like you because what works on 90% of the population doesn't work on you. You play the long game in relationships. While others get pulled in too quickly, you stand back and let time reveal the truth. People expose themselves not in what they say once, but in what they repeat without even knowing it. To Machiavelli, this was the highest form of intelligence, not raw intellect, but psychological clarity. Because once you see through the lie behind the smile, you become unplayable in most social games. So what does this reveal about your mind? You trust patterns more than promises. You've learned not to project your morality onto others. And maybe you've been betrayed before, but instead of breaking you, it sharpened you. Pain became perception. These first two signs alone make you a threat in any group setting. Not because you dominate the room, but because you don't need to. You see through it, and when you see clearly, you can't be controlled. But here's the twist, being smarter than most people doesn't always feel good. It often makes you quieter, lonelier, harder to fool, but also harder to connect with. Most people don't like mirrors, and that's what you've become. If these resonate, congratulations, you're already operating on a rare level of intelligence. But this is just the beginning. In the next part, we'll dive into how curiosity becomes a weapon, why boredom never haunts you, and why the smartest people never feel the need to prove themselves. True intelligence is rarely loud. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't need validation. It operates silently, strategically, with precision. And in Machiavelli's world, intelligence wasn't some academic badge, it was survival. To be smart was to see the hidden game and act before others realized they were being played. Sign 3. You use curiosity as a weapon, not a hobby. Most people are satisfied with appearances. Average minds stop asking questions the moment they feel safe. Smarter minds keep asking, but your curiosity is different. It isn't casual, it's strategic. You're not just interested in how things work. You're obsessed with why they work, who benefits, and how the system can be flipped in your favor. Here's what this looks like in practice. You don't just follow trends, you reverse engineer them. You study the rise of someone's influence, not just their content. You look at how movements spread, not just what they said. You're curious about systems, not outcomes. You ask questions like, who set the rules? Who profits if I fail? Who benefits if I follow the default path? This kind of curiosity keeps you unpredictable. While most people lock into fixed thinking by age 25, you remain adaptable, learning, unlearning, evolving. That makes you uncatchable. Machiavelli would admire this trait because to rule, you must understand the mechanisms of control better than those who built them. Your restless curiosity is the blade that cuts through illusion. What does this reveal about your mind? You've realized information is leverage. You want to understand structures, not just opinions. You connect dots others don't even see. Sign 4. You never get bored because you can entertain yourself. Most people are driven by distraction apps, noise, endless stimulation. But you can sit in silence and your mind stays alive. You create worlds in your head, you simulate conversations, you test strategies, you connect memories. You reflect on what others don't notice. This isn't just imagination, it's mental autonomy. Your mind doesn't need constant input to feel alive. You are your own algorithm. While others scroll endlessly, you build frameworks, systems, philosophies, hierarchies, storing them like weapons for later use. Machiavelli himself spent countless hours studying power alone. He would see this trait as one of the greatest strengths you could have. Most people are slaves to distraction, but if you can find stimulation in silence, you're already ahead of 95% of minds. What does this reveal about your mind? You can dwell in abstract thought without fatigue. You're self-reliant mentally and emotionally. You are dangerous in stillness because stillness is when your mind sharpens. Sign 5. You don't need to prove you're smart. The smartest people rarely flaunt intelligence. They don't chase validation by quoting books or showing off credentials. Why? Because they know the moment you try to prove it, you've already lost influence. You understand that the more you reveal, the more predictable you become. So you let others underestimate you. And while they misjudge you, quietly build advantage. You measure value by effectiveness, not applause. You've seen how being right rarely moves power, but influence does. And influence is always your game. Machiavelli advised rulers to appear less capable than they truly were. It's not about weakness. It's about concealment. You've transcended the ego trap of recognition. You weaponize humility not as virtue, but as strategy. If you've made it this far, you see that being smarter isn't about having answers. It's about sharper questions, clearer observations, and the discipline to hide your power until the moment to strike. In the next part, we'll move into the deadliest signs, the ones that reveal why people follow you without knowing why, and why others quietly envy or fear you. Sign 6. People follow you without knowing why. Influence isn't always loud, and it isn't always forced. Sometimes it's invisible. You've noticed that people tend to orbit you, repeat your phrases, or take your suggestions, even when you didn't intend to push them. That's because influence begins with presence, not persuasion. Most people try to convince with arguments. You don't. You let silence, confidence, and subtle framing do the work. You plant an idea like a seed, and then you let them water it themselves. Weeks later, they think it was their idea. This is the Machiavellian art of soft control, shaping outcomes without obvious force. What does this reveal about your mind? You understand human psychology intuitively. You know that people resist orders but embrace suggestions. You make them feel like they're choosing even when you quietly narrowed the options. That's why people often leave conversations with you feeling seen, understood, even empowered, yet their next move often aligns perfectly with your goals. Sign 7. You're underestimated until it's too late. This is one of the most dangerous traits of intelligence. Most people project their own expectations onto others. If you don't boast, they assume you're harmless. If you don't compete openly, they assume you're weak. But you've learned how to weaponize being underestimated. You don't correct their assumptions. You let them relax. You let them expose their strategies, reveal their weaknesses, and burn their energy. And when the time comes, you act decisively, so fast and so precise that people are left shocked, asking, where did that come from? Machiavelli would call this playing the fox, not the lion. The lion roars and warns the world of his strength. The fox stays silent, feigning innocence until the trap snaps shut. That's why underestimated intelligence is often the most lethal kind. What does this reveal about your mind? You know how to delay gratification, you're patient, you're strategic, and you've accepted that victory isn't about looking strong, it's about being in position when the moment arrives. Sign 8. You create order out of chaos. Most people panic when things fall apart. They need structure, rules, stability. But your mind thrives in disorder. Instead of being overwhelmed, you instinctively look for patterns, priorities, and leverage points. When a system breaks, you don't collapse with it, you rebuild it in your image. You see opportunity in the cracks because chaos is where hierarchies reset. Machiavelli knew that when people are desperate for order, they'll follow whoever provides it first. If you can stay calm in storms, you become the anchor others cling to. What does this reveal about your mind? You're not addicted to stability. You're adaptive, resilient, and willing to reinvent. While others waste energy wishing for normal, you're already shaping the new normal. The smarter you are, the more you realize real intelligence isn't about solving problems. The fastest it's about redefining the game, so the problem itself becomes irrelevant. In the next part, we'll dive into why people trust you with secrets, how you build loyalty without demanding it, and why others often feel uneasy around you even when you haven't done anything wrong. Sign 9. People trust you with secrets. You've probably noticed this. Strangers, colleagues, even casual acquaintances end up confiding in you things they wouldn't tell anyone else. Why? Because your presence disarms them. You listen without rushing to fill the silence. You don't judge openly, and in that quiet space, people project safety. But here's the deeper layer. Every secret shared is leverage. Not because you exploit it, but because it gives you an invisible map of their fears, desires, and vulnerabilities. Machiavelli understood that information is the purest form of power. Armies can fail, wealth can vanish. But if you know what people fear losing most, you can predict and influence their every move. What does this reveal about your mind? You don't just hear words, you interpret subtext. You value what people hide more than what they say. And you know that silence often invites confession more than questions ever could. Sign 10. You build loyalty without demanding it. Most people try to buy loyalty with rewards or force it with authority. You don't. People feel loyal to you because of how you carry yourself. You don't beg for respect. You don't chase validation. You move with a quiet confidence that others naturally align with. It's not charisma in the flashy sense. It's something subtler. When you remain calm in storms, others lean on you. When you keep secrets, they trust you. When you provide clarity in chaos, they depend on you. And dependency, Machiavelli taught, is the strongest form of loyalty. People don't stay loyal because they want to. They stay because leaving feels like losing stability. What does this reveal about your mind? You understand that loyalty isn't about emotions, it's about necessity. You make yourself too useful, too reliable, too insightful to be ignored. Sign 11. People feel uneasy around you even when you've done nothing wrong. Have you ever walked into a room and noticed the energy shift even subtly? It's because real intelligence unsettles people. They can't read you easily. They sense you see through masks, and that creates tension. They don't know what you're thinking, but they feel watched. This unease isn't a flaw, it's power. When people can't predict you, they tread carefully. Machiavelli argued that it's better to be feared than loved if you can't be both. Unease is a subtle form of fear. It keeps people cautious, measured, and unwilling to cross you recklessly. What does this reveal about your mind? You've cultivated presence. You don't need to prove dominance. Your silence does the work. You don't intimidate with force, you unsettle with clarity. And clarity in a world built on illusions is terrifying. In the next part, we'll explore why you rarely feel the need to fit in, how solitude sharpens your advantage, and why detachment often makes the smartest mind seem cold, but in reality untouchable. Sign 12. You don't feel the need to fit in. Most people bend themselves to match the crowd. They change opinions, suppress doubts, and copy behaviors just to feel accepted. But you've learned that blending in costs more than it gives. You don't crave the comfort of belonging, you crave the freedom of being untethered. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you choose authenticity over approval. And paradoxically, this often makes people respect you more. Machiavelli warned that those who chase the crowd become its slave, but those who stand apart create a gravity that pulls others in. When you're willing to walk alone, people start to wonder what path you see that they don't. What does this reveal about your mind? You've realized that fitting in dilutes power. You're comfortable being misunderstood. You don't need the crowd's applause to validate your vision. Sign 13. Solitude sharpens you. Most people fear being alone because silence forces them to confront themselves. You don't. Solitude is where you refine strategy, strengthen discipline, and hear your own thoughts clearly. It's where you test ideas before the world ever sees them. Machiavelli himself was exiled when he wrote The Prince. In his solitude, he didn't collapse, he crystallized his philosophy. Likewise, you understand that time spent alone isn't emptiness, it's investment. Every hour you sharpen yourself in private adds invisible weight to your presence in public. What does this reveal about your mind? You don't need noise to feel alive. You don't fear your own thoughts. You've mastered the art of being with yourself, and that independence terrifies those who rely on constant validation. Sign 14. You practice detachment. Not indifference, not apathy, detachment. You see emotions, but you don't drown in them. You feel anger, but you don't lash out. You feel excitement, but you don't lose control. This distance gives you clarity when others are blinded by impulse. To the average person, this makes you seem cold, but in reality, it makes you untouchable. Machiavelli taught that rulers should appear emotional when useful, but remain detached in truth. You embody that principle. You can play the part when needed, but internally you remain calm and calculating. What does this reveal about your mind? You understand that emotions are signals, not chains. You respond, not react. And that's why people can't easily manipulate you. In the next part, we'll explore how you manage risk differently than most, why you see opportunity where others see danger, and how your ability to think 3 steps ahead sets you apart in every game you play. Sign 15. You manage risk differently than most. Average minds see risk as something to avoid. They fear loss so much that they never move. But you don't avoid risk, you calculate it. You see risk as a currency, something to be exchanged for leverage. Instead of asking, what if I fail, you ask, what can I gain that others are too afraid to reach for? This makes you bold, but never reckless. You don't gamble blindly, you weigh outcomes, anticipate consequences, and prepare contingencies. And when others freeze in fear, you move forward with precision. Machiavelli would argue that fortune favors those who dare, but only when daring is guided by strategy. What does this reveal about your mind? You don't fear uncertainty, you use it. You're not paralyzed by what could go wrong because you've already mapped it out. And that makes you unstoppable when opportunity appears. Sign 16. You see opportunity where others see danger. Most people panic when things collapse. They run from uncertainty. But you lean in, because where others see threats, you see openings. A failing system means room for a new system. A broken alliance means space to create a stronger one. A crisis is nothing more than a reshuffling of power. This ability to flip perspective is what makes you rare. You're not addicted to safety. You're addicted to advantage. And while others cling to what's dying, you're already building what comes next. What does this reveal about your mind? You're not reactive, you're adaptive. You don't need stability to function. In fact, instability gives you space to maneuver. Sign 17. You think 3 steps ahead. Average minds obsess over the present. Slightly smarter minds plan 1 move forward. But you build scenarios, contingencies, and outcomes 3 or 4 moves in advance. You know that life is chess, not checkers. And in chess, the one who thinks furthest ahead controls the game. You might appear calm, but your mind is simulating. If they do this, I'll counter with that. If they choose A, I'll redirect to B. If they betray me now, here's the exit I've already prepared. This forward vision makes you untouchable because you're never cornered. You've already built the escape before the trap appears. Machiavelli admired this kind of foresight. He believed that rulers who failed to plan for the storms ahead were destined to drown. But those who thought beyond the horizon shaped destiny itself. What does this reveal about your mind? You understand that the game isn't about winning today. It's about ensuring tomorrow belongs to you before anyone else sees it coming. In the next part, we'll explore how your independence makes you magnetic, why your standards feel intimidating, and how the balance between kindness and ruthlessness defines the respect you command. Sign 18. Your independence makes you magnetic. Most people cling to groups, labels, and approval to feel secure. But You stand alone. You chart your own course without needing constant reassurance. And paradoxically, this independence makes people drawn to you. They sense strength in your solitude. They see freedom in the way you move. And deep down, they crave it for themselves. Machiavelli believed that those who can stand apart inspire both admiration and fear, because the one who doesn't need the crowd cannot be controlled by it. Independence is rare and rarity is magnetic. What does this reveal about your mind? You've realized that power lies not in being chosen, but in choosing yourself. Sign 19. Your standards intimidate others. You don't tolerate mediocrity, not in yourself, not in those around you. While most people lower expectations just to keep the peace you raise them, even if it makes others uncomfortable. This sharpness sets you apart. People may respect you or resent you, but they can never ignore you. Machiavelli would call this discipline of perception. You teach people how to treat you not by what you demand, but by what you refuse to accept. And when your standards remain firm, others rise to meet them or they fall away. Either way, you win. What does this reveal about your mind? You value quality over comfort. You'd rather stand alone than lower your vision just to fit in. And this makes your presence feel heavy like gravity pulling people into alignment. Sign 20. You balance kindness with ruthlessness. Most people choose one. They're either soft and likable or harsh and respected. But you know both have their place. You can be warm, empathetic, generous, and then when crossed, you can be cold, decisive, and unforgiving. This duality confuses people, but it also commands respect. Machiavelli himself wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But the rarest leaders achieve both. They give kindness strategically, and they wield ruthlessness only when it matters. You embody this paradox. What does this reveal about your mind? You understand that power isn't about choosing extremes, it's about timing. You know when to extend a hand and when to cut the rope. And that balance makes you someone people admire, but also someone they dare not cross. In the next part, we'll explore why your ability to detach from drama protects your focus, how you adapt to change faster than most, and why the strongest minds aren't loud, they are consistent. Sign 21. You detach from drama. Most people are addicted to it. They chase gossip, conflict, and noise because it makes them feel alive. But you step back. You see drama for what it is, distraction. It drains energy, it clouds judgment, and it locks people into cycles of weakness. By refusing to participate, you preserve clarity. Machiavelli would respect this deeply. He understood that rulers who indulged in petty conflicts lost sight of greater strategy. The one who rises above drama is the one who can move freely, while others are trapped in endless squabbles. What does this reveal about your mind? You value focus over excitement. You don't need chaos to feel alive. You thrive in clarity, direction, and purpose. Sign 22. You adapt faster than most. Change terrifies the average person. They cling to routines, to identities, to comfort zones. But you adjust quickly. You let go of what no longer serves you. You reinvent yourself when necessary. You bend without breaking, and that makes you unshakable. Adaptation is the essence of survival. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors those who change with the times. The rigid collapse, the flexible endure, and the strategist uses every shift to position themselves closer to power. What does this reveal about your mind? You're not chained to who you were yesterday. You see identity as fluid, strategy as ongoing, and transformation as strength. Sign 23. You value consistency over noise. Loud people burn bright and fade quickly. They promise more than they can deliver, and they collapse under their own hype. You keep steady. Your words align with actions. You show up again and again, even when no one is watching. This is what builds trust. This is what builds reputation. And reputation, Machiavelli knew, was a weapon sharper than any sword. A consistent record of strength, clarity, and discipline makes you untouchable. What does this reveal about your mind? You don't chase trends, you build foundations. You don't need constant applause, you let results speak. And that is why over time people begin to realize that while others made noise, you made progress. In the next part, we'll explore how your ability to see patterns in human behavior gives you foresight, while your control of emotions is unmatched, and how mastering perception itself becomes the ultimate tool of influence. Sign 24. You see patterns in human behavior. Most people take actions at face value, but you step back and notice the rhythm beneath. You see how fear drives decisions, how pride blinds judgment, how desire bends logic. These repeating patterns allow you to predict outcomes before they unfold. To others, it looks like intuition. To you, it's simply observation sharpened by patience. Machiavelli believed that human nature does not change, only the circumstances around it. And by recognizing the patterns, you gain a kind of foresight that feels almost prophetic. While others stumble through surprises, you move as if you knew it all along. What does this reveal about your mind? You don't need fortune telling. You understand that history repeats itself and people are far more predictable than they think. Sign 25. Your control of emotions is unmatched. Anger, envy, excitement. These are chains for most people. They react without thinking and pay the price. You. You feel emotions deeply, but you refuse to let them dictate your choices. Instead, you use them as signals, as data points. You respond rather than react. This gives you an edge in every interaction. When others explode, you remain composed. When others panic, you stay steady. And in that calmness, you seize opportunities that emotional minds overlook. Machiavelli taught that appearances matter more than truth. If you can appear calm while others lose control, you not only win the moment, you win their trust or their fear. Both are useful. What does this reveal about your mind? You've learned that emotions are tools, not masters, and the one who controls emotion controls the outcome. Sign 26. You master perception itself. Reality is one thing, perception is another. And you know that people act not on reality, but on what they perceive to be real. You craft the frame, shape the story, and let others live inside it without realizing. This doesn't mean you lie recklessly. It means you understand the subtle art of emphasis, what to reveal, what to conceal, and how to let silence speak louder than words. You let others see only what serves your strategy. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must be both the lion and the lion for strength, the fox for cunning. Mastering perception allows you to be both at once. To the world, you appear strong, wise, and fair. Internally, you're calculating every angle. What does this reveal about your mind? You know that the story matters more than the fact, and the one who tells the story tells the future. In the final part, we'll bring all these signs together to show you what they mean about your place in the world and why being this intelligent is both a gift and a burden. To be smarter than most is not a crown you wear, it is a weight you carry. Because the signs you've seen, silence, foresight, detachment, influence, make you powerful, but they also set you apart. You understand what others miss. You notice what others ignore. You play games they don't even realize exist. And that creates distance. The crowd often misunderstands intelligence because it makes them uncomfortable. They mistake your calm for coldness, your patience for weakness, your independence for arrogance. But in truth, these are the very traits that protect you. Machiavelli warned that the wise rarely find peace among the many, and yet he also taught that wisdom is what shapes kingdoms, topples rulers, and rewrites history. You carry that same paradox. You may not always feel celebrated, but you will always hold leverage. What does this reveal about your mind? That you were never meant to compete for applause. You were meant to build, to observe, to shape. You don't fight for a seat at the table, you design the table itself. So where does that leave you with a choice? You can silence your intelligence, bury it, and pretend to be ordinary. Or you can embrace it fully, knowing it will cost you comfort, but grant you power. Because in the end, the smartest minds do not seek to be understood. They seek to understand. They do not chase popularity. They chase control. They do not fade with the trends. They carve structures that outlast time. This is why intelligence is both a gift and a burden. A gift because it makes you unplayable in the games of the average. A burden because it makes you forever separate from the crowd. But if you embrace it, if you accept the loneliness that comes with clarity, then you will find something greater than belonging. You will find freedom. And freedom, as Machiavelli knew, is the only true power worth having.